What occurs after the final breath? Does the essence merge into nothingness, or does it transcend into realms beyond human understanding? Greetings, fellow soul traveler, to the ultimate enigma. Today we explore one of the most profound and mysterious teachings of Tibetan Buddhism. The Bardo Thodol, more commonly known in the West as the Tibetan Book of the Dead. Picture a guide that leads you through the most profound and enigmatic transitions of existence. This is the function of the Bardo Thodol. And no, it's not simply a guide to the end of life. It is a map, a spiritual roadbook for the moments that follow death. Prepare yourself, as together we venture into this portal, decode its teachings, and perhaps grasp a little more about what it truly means to live. The Bardo Thodol was authored by Padmasambhava, a legendary and almost mythical figure in Tibetan Buddhism. Born in India, he is widely credited with bringing Buddhism to Tibet in the 8th century. Tibetan tradition reveres him as the Guru Rinpoche, or Precious Master. But Padmasambhava was not merely a monk. He was a deeply insightful spiritual master, a yogi who mastered mystical arts and esoteric wisdom. The Bardo Thodol emerged from his desire to guide not only the living but also the deceased, offering a path to liberation even after death. From an early age, Padmasambhava demonstrated extraordinary mystical powers, earning recognition as a Mahasiddha, a figure who has reached an advanced level of spiritual enlightenment, cultivating spiritual abilities or siddhis that were considered miraculous. The king of Tibet, Trisong Detsen, invited him to Tibet to spread Buddhism and spiritually unite the country under a single belief. At the time, Tibet was immersed in intense shamanic rituals and animistic beliefs, deeply tied to the Bon tradition, the indigenous spiritual practice. This mix of traditions created obstacles in the spread of Buddhism. Upon his arrival in Tibet, Padmasambhava faced resistance from various spiritual forces and local deities of Bon traditions. Using his knowledge of magic and tantric practices, he tamed these spirits. This blending of Bon practices into Tibetan Buddhism was essential for establishing a lasting spiritual foundation. Thus, Padmasambhava founded Tibet's first Buddhist monastery, the Samye Monastery, and began imparting profound teachings on the mind, reality, and the cycle of life known as samsara. In Tibetan Buddhism, death is not viewed as an end, but a transitional phase, a time of opportunity for spiritual liberation. Padmasambhava understood that at the moment of death, the mind enters a unique state where it is liberated from the distractions of the physical body, becoming more receptive to the ultimate truth. He recognized that this was a rare chance for spiritual liberation, yet he also knew that most people, upon dying, are overwhelmed by illusions and fears, which prevent them from realizing this potential. His mission was to create a guide to be recited by those aiding the dying or even studied in life, preparing the mind for the bardos, the intermediary states following death. Essentially, he aimed to alleviate suffering and open paths to enlightenment even when all seems uncertain and dissolving. This compassion is the cornerstone of the Bardo Thodol. He also understood that many might not achieve enlightenment in life, but he saw death as a final chance, thus providing instructions for practitioners to recognize the clear light, the pure manifestation of the mind, at the moment of death. The Bardo Thodol leads us through three main states, or bardos, encountered by every soul. The Chikai Bardo, the moment of death. In the Chikai Bardo, the soul faces the moment of death itself, a transition where the physical body dissolves and consciousness is liberated from its material confines. Once this dissolution is complete, the soul is confronted with the primordial clear light, a dazzling, pure, and vast light described in the Bardo Thodol. This light represents the absolute nature of the mind, a state of unconditional consciousness free from duality, fear, or attachment. Some refer to it as the higher self, others as the solar mind. Many names exist for this state of infinite peace and totality. For a spiritual practitioner, the Chikai Bardo offers the potential for ultimate liberation. If the soul recognizes the clear light as part of its true nature, it attains instant liberation, nirvana, bypassing the other stages of the Bardos. This recognition does not rely on rituals or teachings but is an immediate, direct experience of truth, where the mind perceives itself without filters or distortions. At this moment, all conditioning, karma, and identities dissolve. However, for the unprepared soul, the intensity of the clear light may be overwhelming. Instead of recognizing it as their true essence, fear or attachment to the familiar may lead the mind to interpret the light as a threat. In this case, the soul retreats, missing the opportunity for liberation and entering the subsequent Bardos, where it encounters more distorted visions in alignment with its karmic tendencies. The Chonyid Bardo, the Bardo of visions. As Carl Gustav Jung once noted, gods and demons are projections of the unconscious mind, powerful and unavoidable until they are understood as parts of ourselves. In the Chonyid Bardo, the soul exists in a state of consciousness freed from the physical body, within a realm where the concept of tangible boundaries ceases to exist. The soul now experiences projections of its own mind, visions that may appear as angelic forms or disturbing, frightening images. This Bardo uncovers the essence of the mind, bringing to light all that has been repressed, desired, or feared, manifesting in an intensified form. The visionary stages of the Chonyid Bardo. The visions experienced in the Chonyid Bardo are direct reflections of the emotional and karmic accumulation of the soul over countless lifetimes. These visions appear in two distinct categories: peaceful visions and wrathful visions. In the peaceful vision stage, the soul is initially welcomed by peaceful deities that embody the enlightened and benevolent qualities of consciousness. These beings may appear as Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, or deities of light, radiating the positive traits cultivated by the soul. The peaceful visions evoke serenity and a profound sense of peace. However, for those unprepared, these visions may be overwhelming or difficult to comprehend, leading the soul to retreat or question the reality of this experience. In the wrathful vision stage, if the soul fails to recognize the peaceful nature of the initial visions, it encounters increasingly intense and terrifying manifestations known as wrathful deities. These figures are projections of anger, fear, and suppressed desires, appearing in monstrous, disquieting forms. Importantly, these wrathful deities are not external, malicious beings, but expressions of the mind itself, illustrating the passions and attachments that bind the soul to the cycle of suffering. The Chonyid Bardo is described as a state free from physical limitations. It is a pure psychic state where all visions are amplified, resembling dreams but with an unparalleled clarity and vividness. This heightened awareness occurs because the mind, liberated from the body, experiences its energies unfiltered. Everything that was once repressed now emerges with intense clarity. These visions offer opportunities for growth and enlightenment, representing aspects of the self that require integration or transcendence. Those who maintain awareness in this Bardo can see that all visions, whether peaceful or wrathful, are simply creations of the mind. Recognizing this truth allows the soul to dissolve fear and attain liberation. At this stage, the Bardo Thodol advises the soul to focus on the clear light, the primordial essence of the mind. Recognizing this light is the key to ultimate liberation, as it represents the innate nature of all beings. It is the unchanging light amid the storm of visions, offering a path to transcend the cycle of rebirth. However, for most beings, the visions appear so real and laden with personal significance that it becomes difficult to see beyond them. This is why the Bardo Thodol encourages spiritual practitioners to cultivate detachment during life, reflecting on the nature of the mind and preparing for these intense experiences. Fear and attachment form the greatest obstacles to liberation. The intensity of these visions, particularly the wrathful deities, can provoke deep fear, creating a sense of separation and preventing the soul from recognizing the visions as parts of itself. The soul may either try to escape these visions or, out of attachment, become fixated on the peaceful ones, thus remaining caught in samsara. To overcome this cycle, the soul must recognize that the visions have no inherent reality. In Tibetan Buddhism, this is known as shunyata, or emptiness. By recalling emptiness during the Chonyid Bardo, the soul can observe all visions without attachment, understanding them as temporary projections of its own nature. The Chonyid Bardo is not a phase of punishment or pointless suffering, but rather a period of revelation where the soul confronts the mirror of its own mind. It serves as a test that differentiates those ready for liberation from those who need rebirth to continue their journey. The Sidpa Bardo, rebirth. In the Sidpa Bardo, the final stage, the soul faces a pivotal moment, the choice of its next body, shaped by the accumulated energy of its actions, thoughts, and intentions, karma. The entire journey of the Bardos culminates in this point, where the soul's inner state determines its next destination. Having already experienced dissolution in the Chikai Bardo and confronted projections in the Chonyid Bardo, the soul now finds itself in a state of heightened psychic density, where the desire for rebirth grows stronger, driven by unresolved fears and attachments. This desire compels the soul to seek a new body, initiating the process of rebirth. In the Sidpa Bardo, consciousness is shaped by karmic inclinations, which subtly draw the soul toward situations and experiences that mirror its inner state. For example, if the soul carries fear, it may find itself reborn into circumstances that trigger those fears. Similarly, intense desires and unresolved emotions form a vortex of energy that shapes the soul's new life. During the Sidpa Bardo, the soul experiences visions connected to the rebirth process, often featuring images of union between couples, symbolizing the creation of new life. At this moment, the soul is called to choose a new body, unconsciously influenced by its karmic tendencies and emotional impulses. The Bardo Thodol advises that the soul maintain detachment and lucidity upon witnessing these visions, as only then can it avoid being blindly propelled into an unfavorable rebirth. For those who can remain calm and detached, the Sidpa Bardo offers one final chance for transcendence. There remains the possibility of liberation rather than rebirth. This is the goal of spiritual practitioners, who aim to recognize these visions as ephemeral and empty projections of the mind instead of being swayed by the illusion of rebirth. Throughout the Sidpa Bardo experience, the soul feels a powerful attraction toward a new body. As the urge to continue existing becomes irresistible, this choice is not conscious but arises instinctively, with the characteristics of the new life reflecting the soul's current mental state. The body the soul will choose is in alignment with its karmic and spiritual development, offering another opportunity for growth. However, many are unaware of this potential and end up being reborn into adverse circumstances, perpetuating their suffering. Those who transcend the illusion of rebirth may merge into the clear light, the ultimate essence of the mind. The Bardo Thodol emphasizes that preparation for this stage begins in life. By reflecting on desires and fears, spiritual practices such as meditation and contemplation of death help strengthen the mind's capacity for detachment. This enables the soul to remain unshaken by the visions of the Sidpa Bardo. The Sidpa Bardo reveals that life and death are interconnected, and that the cycle of rebirth is simply an expression of our own choices and perceptions. By freeing ourselves from attachments, we free ourselves from the cycle of rebirth, reaching enlightenment, a state beyond birth and death, where the illusion of a fixed identity no longer exists. The Bardo Thodol is not just a religious text, but a guide to self-knowledge, a mirror of the mind, and a map for the soul's journey. It teaches that death is both the end of one chapter and the beginning of another. As Ram Dass once said, "When you die, there is only one question that matters. How much did you love?" Reflecting on these teachings, we can prepare for both life and death, learning to truly live.